What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is a legendary Founding Titan, and today I'll be doing my final tier list on the vanilla Halo Wars game. I'll be doing a future tier list, maybe on like the mods, but yeah, as far as vanilla goes, this will be my final tier list ever that I do on it, because after this, there will be nothing else for me to say, honestly. Now, I am going to take away a lot of these tiers as they are not needed for this tier list. Okay, so this is all the tiers I realistically need. Um, I so this tier list is going to be the last tier list I ever do on vanilla. I've kind of already stated that, um, but this one's a lot different from any other tier list that I'll be ever doing, really. Um, Now this tier, of course, is just not selected. Uh, they're just here, so I don't have to go down here to you know to hopefully not accidentally, pull one of these guys up or whatever. That's just what they're here for. These are all the units of the game right here. These are just copies. Um, but yeah, I just put them here. So basically, today we're gonna be looking at a more specific type of tier list. What does that mean? So, for example, let's say I pick Forge, right? This is the person that we're going to be reviewing, basically, if I pick Forge, which means I'll have, obviously his units, which are the Grizzly and the Cyclops. And then we're going to be seeing how well they perform against every other unit. Starting off with also like the leaders, like which leaders are his, strongest counter against, which is weakest counter against, and so forth. And we're going to be doing that with each leader first, and doing that with all the units after. So I think I will actually. You know what? Screw it. We'll start with Forge, honestly. Um. So yeah, I. This is so basically red is what he's the weakest against. Yellow, he might struggle against these type of units here, and then what units he's like actually really good against, or leaders he's really good against. Spoiler alert, probably not many are gonna go here for Forge. Honestly. So let's get right into it, shall we? So let's start with the leaders. So as far as leaders go, let's talk about Brute Chieftain. I feel like Brute Chieftain is very strong against ground vehicles in general, to be honest. And none of Forge's powers or units really help against that. While he does have the Grizzly, which can help, his upgrade really doesn't mean anything against the Brute Chieftain because, the Grizzlies, I'm not really sure if they would do more damage to the Chieftain. I doubt it with this canister, because they do more damage to infantry, but I don't think they do more to a leader, which is kind of weird. I don't think they do. Um, and even if they could get a canister off on a Brute Chieftain, most of the time, unless it's like super high leveled Spartans, he's not going down. And Chieftain is very, very strong. Even like his base units are really strong against him. So I feel like Chieftain, because if a Chieftain is playing aggressive as well, it is really difficult to ever get a veteranized Spartan, as he can easily punish it with either his brutes or himself. As once Chieftain gets to level 2, he can stun the vehicle forever unless, you knock his health down, which is very hard to do because he's also very, very tanky. I feel like Chieftain just kind of struggles here, and he would. I feel like against Forge, yeah, Forge is struggling against a Chieftain for sure. He's just really good against vehicles in general. So, and none of Forge's powers really help to counter this dude. Maybe his carpet bomb could kill some brutes, but it's not doing a lot to the chieftain himself, which is the main issue. So that's where he would have to go. Um, Arbiter, I feel like I, I would say Arbiter. He's probably I don't think he's weak against him. I say he would be more. Uh, I would say he would struggle against an Arbiter. I feel like Arbiter. I don't think any Arbiter's units are really gonna get the jump on Forge. Really, like the Suicide Grunts. I feel like if you do build the Grizzlies and you have the Carpet Bomb, really building Suicide Grunts aren't really gonna do a whole lot. I feel like you could just easily counter that. I don't know. I don't think Arbiter is really a person that he can really do a lot against though, because again, not really none of Forge's kit really helps that much as you would think, uh, against even the Covenant leaders. But he would be a little bit better off against Arbiter than a Chieftain. But again, it's just the relentlessness of Arbiter can really just hammer Forge. And yeah, I feel like Arbiter, especially if Arbiter enhances his hunters and stuff. I mean, even Grizzlies are going to struggle a little bit because Arbiter's rage is really strong. But I still say, even with all of that, Arbiter, it just be a he would struggle against him. That's about all I got to really say about it. Prophet of Regret. Um, I would say he's probably very weak against Prophet of Regret. I think Prophet of Regret is a very powerful opponent against Forge. Um, just because he can't really, again, none of the units he has, none of the powers he has help against him, and it's even worse off against a Prophet than the other two, because I honestly would say, like, it would be like this. I think Prophet's probably, like, the strongest counter to Forge, mainly because, well, Prophet's already really difficult to deal with as a UNSC if because you don't have the Vampire. The Vampire really does help against those Prophets, as, once they fly, your reactors are never, ever, ever safe. And, uh, you know, granted, Cutter or Anders' power really can surprise Prophet 90% of the time, but Forge, you really can't do anything with it. That's the thing. And ODSTs from Cutter or Hawks versus Hawks from Anders would definitely help against a Prophet. Forge just doesn't really have anything like that. He doesn't have any specialization against air. So honestly, Prophet is such a high extreme. I almost would argue that Chiefs would actually go down. I think he would actually go down. Just because I think Prophet's actually a lot more of a threat even more than Chieftain in this case. Because I mean, not the more I think about it, actually, I do think Grizzlies would do a little bit better against Chieftain's armies and stuff. But again, it's Chieftain. He's still gonna struggle against him. I just don't think to this extreme. I think Prophet is just really tough to deal with as Forge, because he quite literally has picking Forge against a Prophet. You literally have nothing on your platter to surprise the Prophet with. Nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. So yeah, I think that's why Prophet's probably his biggest counter. And the reason why I did knock Chieftain down is specifically because of Anders. It made me realize that air is your biggest problem as Forge. Because your abilities cannot do anything against air. And I already think UNSC struggle more than Covenant with air, because, you know, the Wolverine, while it is good, there is a lot of units in the game that can easily kill it. Hunters, Scorpions, Warthogs, Gremlins, Wraiths, Hawks. Just about every vehicle can do a lot of damage to Wolverines as well. While effective against air Wolverines are, a lot of units in the game are very effective against them. Whereas vampires, that's not the case. Vampires have free reign of the air while only having like a couple counters. And, you know, Forge's abilities really don't have anything to offer against air. Nothing. Nothing at all. So I definitely think that those two would definitely put a foot on Forge's neck pretty badly. Like I said, Chieftain's still a pretty tough counter, but when you compare it to the air leader factions, like, Anders and Prophet, it makes it like so much harder for Forge to do much. Captain Cutter, um, specifically if a Captain, now I will say that Forge is probably one of the strongest counters to a Captain Cutter, but I don't know. Specifically with Captain Cutter's kit, I think Forge is really strong against him because ODSTs are very powerful units to not be trifled with, but Grizzlies do put them down. Grizzlies are very effective against ODSTs. I would say that Cutter would still, like, it's arguable that he should just be up here against Forge. I could definitely see it because of the Mag Blasts. At the same time, though, like, Mag Blasts aren't really doing a lot to Grizzlies. Like, if you're building Grizzlies, um, Grizzlies have so much health. Even a Mag Blast, I don't think can actually take them out in one hit. Well, especially if there's a Spartan in those Grizzlies, because I feel like, I mean, the way I play Forge anyway, I usually have just 3 or 4 Grizzlies, and all 3 of those Grizzlies are just Spartans. And I typically have just, Cobras. I usually have Cobras as my firepower against Scorpions, because we all know Grizzlies don't do that well against Scorpions. So I typically balance it out with having Cobras, just having the Cobras behind the Grizzlies at all times, and having Grizzlies just play as a meat shield sort of deal. That's kind of how I play Forge. So if you kind of do that, I feel like Cutter would probably go down here. I feel like it's just a little bit easier. I don't know. Maybe it's not a great reasoning because realistically, Cutter could just send a Hornet over and blow up those Mycobras with a Mac Blast. So maybe that's not the best strategy against a Cutter either. But against like the units that Cutter could build, like elephants and not grizzlies, elephants and ODSTs, he's not really doing a whole lot with those. So I definitely think I think it's better off to just have Cutter down there. I think Cutter is the one, or sorry, Forge is like the one character that can kind of put a stop to the ODST rampage, pretty effectively, I'd say. Marines, I think Marines are no problem at all for Forge because of the Grizzlies and the Carpet Bomb. The Carpet Bomb is, if there's anything that the Carpet Bomb is good at, it is killing infantry and bases. So it is kind of nice for that. But that's about the only thing that you're really killing with Forge is infantry. Cobras, realistically, I feel like Cobra is always just going to go here just because it's situational. But yeah, I think Cobra's, it's a two-sided coin. While you can build them, they can also be a huge counter against you, etc., etc. I feel like it might be even a bigger issue for Forge than like someone like Anders or Cutter, because Cutter can Mac Blast him, and Anders can either cryo freeze him or use gremlins. I feel like for Forge's case, it's a little bit more difficult to deal with as well, because your cart bomb's not killing them unless it's like max carpet bomb level, and even then, I'm not sure if it would. Especially if the Cobras are spread out, you're not gonna be able to hit them all with that carpet bomb. Probably not anyway. It depends if they're grouped up or not. If someone knows how to place them pretty well, yeah, they could be quite an issue. But the Grizzlies do have a big, they have a pretty good chunk of health that they can maybe kill the Cobra. They're not as Grizzlies are not as endangered as scorpions, which is why I do put them just in yellow. Because, when you have Spartans and those Grizzlies, they can become a pretty effective meat shield. So I'll just keep them there. Hornets, honestly, I mean, Wolverines aren't like locked from you, so if you see them coming, I just feel like you can deal with that pretty easily. Hornets are just not good. I've said that in the past already. I don't really got much else to say about it. Hornets are not that good. Brutes, kind of discussed it already. He's really, if there's anything that Forge is great against, it's infantry. Most of the infantry is going to go into probably he's strong against, honestly. Just because of his Grizzlies are just so effective against infantry units. Scarab. I feel like he would probably. I feel like this goes more into yellow. I feel like he doesn't have as much of an obvious answer to deal with it. Like, you get Cutter with a bunch of ODSTs to surround that Scarab and Mac Blast it, and then RPG it, and the Scarab's dead. And you can't even really say it's hard to surround a Scarab because you can realistically just place you can literally just have 20 ODSTs run at it, and then use 10 ODST drop pods to easily surround the Scarab. It's not that hard to surround a Scarab with ODSTs as Cutter. And you can just easily Mac Blast and RPG it, and the Scarab would already be dead. Scarabs are very, very minor issue, especially if it's alone. It needs a hell of an escort to really prevent it from getting surrounded by ODSTs like that. And it's really hard to not get surrounded by ODSTs, honestly. So, it's... And Anders is like, you can just drop a cryo bomb on it, and it's frozen, you can just kill it. Forge is just not as obvious. Like, there's not as many obvious ways to deal with it. Especially since your Grizzlies kind of work against you, because, the canister just does so much less than the Scarab. However, each Grizzly pretty much has the same HP pool as a unranked or unveteran Scarab. So you basically have mini Scarabs on the field at all times. Like obviously the Scarab does more damage, but the Grizzlies have just about the same amount of health. So you essentially have like mini Scarabs running around. They just do a lot less damage. That's the problem with them. But you could still kill a Scarab kind of easily with those Grizzlies, just because they are just chunkers of health. Suicide Grunts, I kind of talked about this with Arbiter and, the infantry thing. It's just, they're not going to do much against Forge. They're really not. I mean, obviously, you can always get the jump on them, but realistically, you're not going to really surprise Forge with this. Chopper, strong against. Choppers aren't doing anything against anyone, I feel. They're just really bad. Strong against, same thing, infantry. I might as well just throw the flamethrowers up there, same as the honor guards. Very strong against all of those. Very strong. Now, ODSTs is a little different. Well, okay, I'll put them in here, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll just place all the infantry in here. I'm kind of sick of talking about them, because like I already said, like, Grizzlies are just going to stomp them. Like, there's nothing they can really do. Most of these, I will say Hunters, they can struggle against them. They can. They are anti-vehicle after all. But even then, Hunters aren't Grizzlies aren't weak to Hunters. They're not. An army of Grizzlies probably would win against an army of Hunters. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really too sure on that. At the very least, most of the Hunters are going to be dead, though, if they try that. Especially if the Spartans are in those Grizzlies and they're veteranized. Yeah. I would say it's more of a struggle against Hunters rather than a major weakness. Ghost, it's a Ghost. It's not doing much. Locust, same difference. They're just building killers, not too well. They don't do much. Vultures might actually have a chance to do something against Forge. I'm not going to lie. I would say it struggles just because it is a Vulture and it sucks ass. And, obviously Wolverines aren't locked from you. But If you can surprise anyone on this list out of the leaders, if you can surprise anyone with a Vulture attack, it's Forge. Because, like I said, he doesn't have much of an answer against air. So you might be able to get the jump on a Forge with Vultures. You might. Elephants, I would say he is. I feel like an elephant's not doing a whole lot. I mean, realistically, your tanks are on the field. You got, some healers, maybe some Cyclops healing the base. I don't know. I just don't think there's gonna be much of an advantage. Like, it's not. You can surprise someone with elephants, but those grizzlies are gonna push up, and once they realize where those ODSs are coming from, that elephant's not lasting any time because elephants have like no offense, like they have no damage at all. So once a grizzly spots it, it's fucked. Um, engineer, I'd say. I mean, it's an engineer. I mean, I don't really know. Like, would I guess struggles against. You could argue with like the engineers being able to heal the scarab and heal the leaders. Whatever. I guess because the main issue with Forge is just you lack damage, and if you're healing a super scarab, I just don't really know how you take one down. Honestly, Cobras would have to be your answer, but it's kind of hard to do that. It's kind of hard to push a 30 engineer scarab with Cobra. Because even if it gets low, like, the scarab can easily run away. So, you have nothing to really pursue that scarab. I don't know. I feel like engineer with a scarab would be pretty devastating against a Forge. I don't know. Gremlins, I feel like gremlins are probably his weakness. Um, yeah, I feel like if you're fighting a bunch, because you already have scorpions, which are an issue. Combine that with gremlins, yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, buddy. Gremlins are gonna be eating your asshole. I mean, it's already a pretty significant difference from scorpions to grizzlies when they're fighting each other. Putting a gremlin in the field on top of that is just you're just a Forge hater at that point. You're just trying to make that Forge resign. Like, you're just trying to. That Forge is already struggling by building these grizzlies. I mean, and then you gotta throw a gremlin in there with the scorpions you already have. Yeah, and talk about scorpions, they're the literal rival to grizzlies, so yeah, both these together though, you're giving Forge a headache and you're making him just not want to live. Like, you're not giving my man a good time. That's just all I gotta say about it. Wraith, I feel like Wraith actually struggles against. I feel like while the Wraith does a lot more damage than a Grizzly, but it doesn't have the durability. I feel like in general though they would struggle because believe it or not, I done a test with my friend once between Scorpions versus Wraith, and Wraith won. Now, I realized the reason why Wraiths did win, and because it was a significant difference. We tested it in deathmatch. Now, in deathmatch, for whatever reason, I didn't know this until uh, I saw Anti-Way's video talking about Wraiths and deathmatch. Wraiths and deathmatch actually have 2 extra shield level in deathmatch over standard. Uh, so it was a pretty inaccurate test in that case because that would mean that the Wraith had 5 shield instead of the normal 3, which is a huge difference in Halo Wars. So I do think the Wraith would still win against an army of Scorpions if Spartans aren't in the field with those Scorpions, because Wraiths do a lot of damage in general with their Y abilities. If you use it well, it is pretty devastating against Scorpions, but I don't think against something as tanky as a Grizzly, I don't think it's going to be a major counter against a Grizzly, but I do think it is going to be an issue. It will be an issue. but not as big as an issue as these two up here. Spartan. Spartan. I feel like this kind of goes both ways, really. But I don't know. I guess we could do weak against. I think the major thing that would be so awful is if a Spartan did grab one of your good Grizzlies, and then your enemy has a good Grizzly and two good Scorpions. That would be kind of disgusting. I think that would be kind of disgusting. So I would say that they were. I would say they would be weak against just something like that, a situation like that, because then they just use a fucking Grizzly as a meat shield while the Scorpions do the damage. I mean, Scorpions with Grizzlies would be disgusting, and if they got away with one of your Grizzlies, that would be kind of disgusting. I'm not gonna lie. Banshee struggles. I think you know what? I think Banshee might be the biggest counter to Forge, honestly. Um, yeah, I think Banshees would be the biggest counter to Forge because Banshees are really fast. I mean, Forge really does not have a single answer for that. Not one. Not a single answer. Um. Yeah. He's just gonna stay there. Hawks, same diff. Same difference. I mean, like I said, you can build Wolverines, but, I mean, if they're, like, let's say, for instance, you have a full ground force. You're attacking the enemy base. They send those Banshees behind your base and start blowing your reactors up. What the fuck you gonna do about it? Cry? That's about the only thing you could do. Is cry about it. That's the only thing you could do. Because you can't drop a Cryo Bomb. You can't drop Mac Blast. You can't drop ODSTs. You can't throw in Hawks. Your Hornets don't do shit to Banshees or Hawks. You literally can't do anything besides hope that your Wolverines get to your base in time, and I promise you they won't. I can almost promise you that they won't. So, yeah, these two are just fucking you. Like, there's just nothing a Forge could do against these. Warthog, strong against Grizzlies. If you could actually get Grizzlies on... no, I'll leave it there. Yeah, if you could get Grizzlies online, because this is counting his base kit in late game, right? So, I would say, you know, Warthogs would be, of course, here for everyone in early game. But if you got the late game, Grizzlies are not crying about Warthogs. They're not. Warthogs just get no diffed. Um, Vamps. Uh, uh, I mean, I feel like Vamps just have nowhere to be. Like, I feel like because you're not building Ares Forge. There's no way you're building Ares Forge. You're either building infantry or fucking vehicles, because there ain't nothing you can do with that Hornet. Like, unless you're trying to surprise your enemy somehow with Hornets, which I don't know why you're doing that, to be honest with you. Um, I mean, like, I mean, rushing air is kind of effective as Forge because, you know, you do have the early game supplies, but this is counting late. This is counting, like, in late game, right? So, I don't know. Like, I feel like a Vamp just has no place to be. Because in late game, like, there's no way you're building Hornets. There's no way. Because Hornets are, like, I'm not intimidated by Hornets at all. I'll be honest with you, I'm not intimidated by them at all. Unless I see, like, 20 of them in, like, 10 minutes. No. I don't know, man. I feel like Vamps are gonna have to go... I feel like they're strong against, because, like, nothing you're building in... There's nothing that Forge is building in air. So you're throwing Vamps at Grizzlies, which have like 20,000 health or some shit. They're tanky as fuck. Yeah, I don't know, though. Wolverine. Kind of the same thing, really. Kind of the same thing. I'll be honest. Um, now from left to right, which is like the worst things to fight against. So I'm not gonna bother with strong against because I mean it's kind of all the same thing. Like you're not having any issues with any of these at all. So what's the point? But for things that you struggle against, definitely chieftain first. I'd say uh let's see. I think Cobra might go here. I don't know. It depends. Like if you're fighting an Anders, it definitely goes there. I think it just depends on who you're fighting against specifically. Because if it's an Anders, you try to rush those Cobras, and then a Gremlin hits you, and then a Cryo Bomb hits you. Like I mean, that's the big difference. I feel like in general though, if it's a cutter, I feel like Arbiter might be a bigger issue than that. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Oh man, this is tough. Um, I will say, I will put Vulture at the like near the end here, just because you can build Wolverines, and even without like, what do you call it, like, even without like a power to fight the Vulture immediately, it's not gonna be that surprising. Like a Wolverine can quickly get across the map, get to that Vulture, and just kill it. Even building away your base, I mean, a, a single vulture is not going to do much. And there's no way that your enemy just built 6 vultures, because at that point they're trolling your ass. So, like, I don't know. Uh, I mean, honestly, at that point, if they're building 6 vultures, you might as well just, like, go end their base. Like, you can easily just win the game at that point, because, like, those vultures ain't doing anything besides blowing up your bases. I don't know. I feel like, I'll just leave it there, I guess. Wraith. I'll leave it there. I don't think it's that big of an issue. Engineer kind of goes with Scarab, so I'll leave that there. Hunters are a little bit tougher than Wraiths, but I don't know. I think the big hunk in health of the Grizzlies might have an edge over those Hunters. Unless they invested everything into Hunters, then I don't see it really. Um, Arbiter, I'm really struggling between this. Like, I feel like a Scarab is like kind of disgusting. Like, I'm gonna engineer with it because let's be honest. When are you not building these with a Scarab? I feel like a Scarab's there. You know what? No, I'll put it there. Like if you have fucking Grizzlies instead of Scorpions, I feel like the Scarab is one of the strongest ground vehicles against you besides the Scorpion, honestly. While you can surround the Scarab with like an army of Grizzlies and, just tank it to death. I mean, like, literally tank it to death by just sacrificing tanks to kill it. Because, like, you will lose probably only a couple tanks before the Scarab gets killed. At the same time, it's like, you gotta be careful with that, because if the Scarab becomes leveled up, Forge is a 3-star Scarab. What I'll say, if you ever see a 3-star Scarab as a Forge, it's a hopeless battle. You've lost. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do at all. Like, the Cobras can only help you for so long before the Scarab finds a way around your defenses, because you can't pursue it. You can't, unless you have like veteranized Spartan tanks like Grizzlies. You can't really pursue it. And even if you do, if it has 30 engineers on it, like, yeah, I don't know if I honestly don't know if 3 14 armored tanks could out damage engineers. I know Scorpions can because they have the canister, but without the Y ability for that huge burst of damage, I'm not sure, Chief. I'm not sure. Um, I don't know. I'll just leave it there. I really don't know because I've never been put in a scenario where I had to fight a Scarab by myself as Forge. Um, a level 3 one. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't see how you could realistically pursue it. That would be the main issue. Because Cutter and Anders have their powers that give them the edge even over a Super Scarab, but what? How do you deal with that as Forge? Like, would you just build? I guess what you could do is build like a bunch of Wolverines and Grizzlies. I guess that would probably work, but I don't know. I'm gonna leave it there because it's pretty complicated. I guess I'm just gonna leave it in struggles against, but I think that would be probably like this one of the biggest struggles you'd have. And then for this list, I honestly feel like Banshee and Hawk. You know what? Actually, Banshee's probably the number one strongest counter to Forge, especially if, let's say, for instance, you have 3 Forges on your team. Banshee, like, not that's ever gonna fucking happen, but Banshees are your number one weakness. Like, there's nothing you can do if they come to your base. Nothing. That's kind of how that's kind of what the cryo bomb's for, is kind of for base defense, I feel, or to isolate and kill a specific problem, I feel, like a scarab, for instance, or if they're using a Cobra line, you can use a cryo bomb then. But for the most part, I use, like, as Anders and Cutter. I feel like most people do this as well. I feel like those powers are mainly for defense, and Forge just can't do nothing with those defenses. Like, he can't do anything with his power against air. So I feel like, honestly, I feel like a profit with a Banshee force is just Forge's, like, venom. Like, that would just kill him. Like, there's just nothing he could do. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I mean, like I said, you can build Wolverines, but, like, if you're across the fucking map, what do you do? Because you need quite a bit of Wolverines to actually fight a Banshee force. So I don't know. I feel like it's a struggle no matter what, no matter how you slice it. Um, yeah, Hawks go there. Anders goes here with the cryo bomb. Scorpion, yeah, that's about right. That's about how the list would probably go. Honestly, I don't even think scorpions are your biggest problem that I thought they would be. I think it's actually air, because air is just like it's this fucking circle around your ass, like vultures over a dead carcass. I saw, man, I don't know. I have no idea. Now, I think that's how I would leave it for Forge. Now, I didn't realize it'd take me this long to do Forge. I might have to split this tier making into multiple videos. I'm not gonna lie, because it's already been almost 40 minutes. So, with that being said, this is what Forge is weak, struggles, and is strong against. If you want to see what I think about the other leaders, I guess I'll have to leave them in. Well, I'm only gonna be able to upload one video a day with this. Because if I upload them all at once, it's not gonna do anything, and I'm not gonna make a 3-hour video. So I guess like and subscribe for more, and I'll just put them out one day at a time. So I would throw them all at once, but YouTube will not do anything with the other 5 videos. So yeah, I'll just have to upload them one at a time. All right, so this is what I think Forge belongs. I think Forge, this is what he's weak against, struggles, and is strong against. Make Leave some comments saying if you agree, disagree, think Cutter should be in weak against. I can see Cutter can really go anywhere. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like in general his strongest. I feel like Forge is probably strongest against Cutter though. I really do believe that, just because Cutter's kit really is rendered almost useless against Forge. But For Cutter is still he's still the man. You know what I mean? He's still the man of Halo Wars. So you gotta let me know what you think about that. Anyway, that's all I got for now. The next one we're gonna be doing is probably Anders, which is what would be considered the queen of Halo Wars. So we'll be doing, Anders in the next video. All right, guys. That's all I got for this one. This is Legendary Fountain Titan signing off, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Oh, before I do leave, though, I will be putting once the videos are out anyway, I will be putting all 6 parts in the description for each video, just so you know. If you haven't seen them, whatever, in the future when I actually have them all out, that's what they'll be. They'll be in the description, yada, yada, yada. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, boys.